Hello there, my name is Duncan. I am a UCAT teacher for Kaplan, and today I'm going to be going over some top tips to help you score high on the UCAT exam. So the aim of this video is to give you a number of pointers, a number of tips, which will hopefully help you as you're preparing for the UCAT, which I'm sure a lot of you are doing at the moment, and in turn help you get a higher score when it comes to test day, which is of course what we all want. In terms of a bit about me, I am a fifth year medical student at the University of Edinburgh. Edinburgh is a beautiful city. I would highly recommend coming to visit it if you get a chance. I hope the UCAT prep is going well at the moment, and if you have your test coming soon, then all the best. Hopefully this video will help. So here we go. So tip number one is to practice. Now, this one might seem very obvious, but it is so important for the UCAT. You can't revise for the UCAT in the same sense that you would for an exam in school or in university, for example, but you can absolutely make sure you are as prepared as possible. And there are a few ways in which you can do this. The first is to make sure that you spread your practice out over weeks and maybe even months. The UCAT is not an exam which you want to find yourself cramming for in the week before. Absolutely make sure you do little by little over a longer period of time, and this will really help you get a fantastic score. Another thing you can do to help yourself get a higher score is make sure you do focused practice. For instance, in the quantitative reasoning section, you might want to work on your percentage change questions. So you could spend some time, maybe half an hour, working on those sorts of questions and making sure you really get to grips with them. Something else that is so important in the UCAT, and I'm sure many of you will have picked up on this, is making sure that you are good with the timing. So making sure that you do timed practice is going to be something which will really help you get a higher score on test day. The final thing which you want to make sure you do and can be very useful is taking the full length practice tests. There are some of these available on the UCAT Consortium website and also on the Kaplan website. You can find the links for these in the description box. Make sure you use these resources that are available to you, as they're really going to help you be prepared for testing. One final thing with regards to practice that some people can find quite helpful is having a study partner. So if you know someone else who is taking the UCAT at a similar time to you, why not ask them to do some studying together, and you can try and help each other out with some of those tougher questions. Tip number two to help you score high on the UCAT is to make sure you triage. Now, triage is a concept which we talk about a lot in our classroom and online courses, but it essentially means to prioritize. So with regards to the UCAT, this means that we want to prioritize the easy and medium difficulty questions before we move on to the hard questions. There are some things we know about the UCAT which can help us as we're doing this, and the first is that all questions are worth the same number of marks. So no matter if a question is easy or tough, it will be worth the same number of marks. Therefore, we want to make sure we prioritize those easier questions before we get onto the tougher questions, as this is going to allow us to get the most questions correct and therefore a higher score on test day. The other very important thing to note about the UCAT is that there is no negative marking. Therefore, we want to make sure we always choose an answer before we move on from a question. So if you identify a question that's a bit harder that you're going to leave until the end, then still make sure you click on an answer and you can come back and spend a bit more time on it later. Tip number three for achieving a high score on the UCAT is to acquaint yourself with the online interface. As I'm sure many of you will know, the UCAT is a test taken on a computer and not a written test, as many tests are at school. Therefore, it can be quite tricky to use the on-screen interface at first, but it's very important that you familiarise yourself with it. And in fact, there are a lot of features of the on-screen interface which can help you save time on test day. So we're going to talk about a few of those. The first feature that can be really useful is the flag for review feature. This allows you to put a red flag on questions which you maybe haven't got time to answer on a first pass, or that you spent a bit of time for and haven't quite managed to get to the answer yet. Once you get to the end of a section, you can then choose to review only flagged questions. Therefore, you know you'll be looking at questions that you hadn't quite managed to answer yet and not wasting time clicking through all the questions which you have already answered. Another thing which a lot of people find quite useful is keyboard shortcuts. These are an aspect of UCAT which allow you to bring up the calculator quickly and move smoothly between questions. These can be quite hard to use at first, but on balance, they can really help you save time, and it's worth investing a bit of time into knowing how to use them. The next thing that is very important is to make sure you familiarise yourself with the calculator. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to bring your own calculator into the UCAT exam, and you must use the on-screen one. This can be quite tricky to use at first, so really make sure you familiarise yourself with it. The other thing you have to get used to is having the clock counting down in front of you as you take the test. This can be a little bit daunting at first, but as time goes on, you will find that this clock is your friend. It will help you keep track of your timing in each section and make sure that you're on track to answer as many of the questions as possible. The fourth tip for scoring highly on the UCAT is to pace yourself and set goals. As we touched on earlier, the UCAT is really not an exam which you can cram for. You do not want to find yourself 1 week before test day having to spend hours and hours on end every day just to cover all the material. Therefore, make sure that you spread your studying out over a few weeks and months. And when you're studying, make sure you also take study breaks. There's no use sitting and doing the same task for hours on end. Make sure you spend some time taking a break and refreshing yourself. It is also very important that you continue to spend time doing exercise or hobbies or whatever it is which you enjoy. Try and work towards something in each section as well. For instance, in the decision-making section, you might want to work on assessing 5-part questions more quickly. Setting a goal for each section and trying to work towards that can be very, very helpful in preparing for test day and can help you strive to get a better score. The fifth and final tip for scoring highly on the UCAT is to be prepared on test day. No matter how much revision you do, the only result that matters is the one that you get on test day. This is what all your revision is leading up to. This is the result which is going to form part of your application, which is sent to the universities. Therefore, you want to give yourself the best possible chance to do well. And there are a number of things you can do. The first is to make sure you take a break the night before. Don't sit up all night studying. Get yourself an early bed, okay, and get plenty of sleep. You want to get up in plenty of time the next day. Make sure you can have some food and stay well hydrated before the test. Try and arrive at the test centre early to familiarise yourself with the place, calm yourself down a little bit, and also make sure you pop to the toilet. Remember, there are no breaks throughout the UCAT test. Once you go into the testing room, make sure you ask for additional noteboards, as you don't want to disrupt your own exam by having to ask for these throughout the test. The final and most important thing is not to worry while you're sitting the test. Things don't always go to plan, and you might find that one of the sections doesn't go as well, but it is very important that you try and forget about that and move on to the next section. The 1 minute which you get between sections can be a very good time to take a big deep breath, try and relax, and get yourself in the mindset for the rest of the test. So do use that to your advantage. Okay, so that is us gone over all 5 tips which will help you score highly on the UCAT. Remember, the tips are to practice, to triage, to acquaint yourself with the online interface, to pace yourself and set goals, and to be prepared for test day. Thanks very much, folks.